And we're live. You good? It says live on her side. On my side. What the f are you doing? I see the damn button saying live.
I was seeing how long I could sit here and not move in the same position.
Well, then I went, damn, did it freeze?
Is it frozen? Hang on, I better not start yet.
All right, you ready to go?
Let's do it.
All right.
Let's do it.
Welcome to Performance on Demand podcast with Craig and Jeremy, where you will learn all things endurance sports, training and nutrition, mental strength. Everything you need and want to know in one place.
What?
I can't hear it.
Oh, welcome back to
I don't know when to speak. I don't know when to shut up, much like the rest of my life.
welcome back to Performance on Demand podcast. I'm your host Craig Willard, along with Jeremy Brown.
So, like the rest of my life, I'm sitting here listening. I could barely hear this noise in the background of our intro. And at most points of my life, I don't know when to speak or shut up. So if I don't know when to speak or shut up, I speak by default, which is a bad trait to have. And so I'm sitting here. I'm like, oh shit, don't do it this time. Just keep quiet, right, Craig? Show us your cup real quick, Craig, for those watchers we have.
Oh boy, this one.
That's exactly. The cup says a giant cup of shut the fuck up, and that's exactly what I was thinking as he's going through this intro, because I used to talk over the intro all the time. So
I like this cup because it's that internal conversation you have with yourself. Sometimes you just need to tell it to stop. And so it's a good reminder when you're drinking your morning Joe.
Java.
Your morning Joe to literally stop with the harassment. The harassment.
Well, good morning, dude. It's early for us. We normally do our podcast in the evening, but we got some little bonus time in here, and I'm excited. It's been a week now, just over a week since we chatted last. Got some good feedback, got some good thought process, and it's funny. I think in this past week we've had more recommendations for podcast ideas than we did in the entire other 57 episodes.
I know, no doubt.
So people don't know what they have until it's gone. Maybe that's what it is. We just we took that.
If I could only
that sucker away, and now they're a little angry. They want it back. So what are we going to talk about today? What just happened?
Oh, it's my turn.
The problem is, so for those, you got to remember, there's only 2 people watching. Everyone else is just Craig staring down at the desk. And prior to us starting this, I froze, and I just sat as still as I possibly can, which for those that know me know is not very long. And I was hoping he would think that I had frozen, but he was a trooper. He just rolled with it. He was just trying to get me back, but he wasn't even looking at the freaking screen, so it's not fair. So what are we talking about today?
Then I did to you. We are talking about engaging with your moment. And
yep.
What does that mean? I'm so
well. I came to this idea. I brought this idea up the other day, and I called you. It may have been actually at Galveston 70.3 while I was there. Maybe it was a little bit after. I don't remember when it was. Because I sat there, and as I watched these athletes go by, I started on the run course. I started noticing trends, if you will, and that's what coaches do. We notice trends, whether it's mental coaching, whether it's endurance coaching. You notice trends, and you put pieces in place to kind of help guide those trends or redirect someone in a different direction. And what I noticed was a guy named Tony. Tony's with Base. He was there with me, Base Performance. And we actually started playing a game. We started playing a game, and we would have to guess when this athlete came by, was their look and demeanor nutrition related, mental related, or fitness related? right? So there would be people coming by and they look like just freaking zombies, just not moving very quickly. And he and I quickly realized that most people that were having nutritional issues, or we assumed nutritional issues, that's what they were, their body was done. There were other people that came by that were grimacing a little bit, and it's kind of hard to tell nutrition and fitness, if they didn't put in the training or they didn't pace themselves. But one thing was very, very, very clear. When people came by and they were walking, yet they were alert and looking around, to us, we said that was a mental opportunity for them. And by that, I mean, they were trying to engage with where they were at, but they just could not get past that peak, if you will. And I told Tony, I said, we need to set up a camera and take pictures of everybody that comes by on the race course, or video, and watch and assess these people, because there were so many times you saw people that were alert, but they were not engaged. And oftentimes, and I think I mentioned it to you, Craig, oftentimes that's what I feel happens in life. We're alert and we're kind of around and we're in our setting, but we're not engaged. And you and I kind of went off on a little tangent and started talking about meditation and our thoughts on that and things like that. But that's kind of where I want to start this at today, is the amount of people I saw that were alert but not actually acting in that moment and engaged. What are your thoughts on engagement, and whether it's common life or sport?
I think it's a really deep question. It's actually an interesting question, and something I hadn't really processed to that, that type of to how that was how it was framed. So there's that's a really good question. If we're talking about being engaged in that moment, meaning that we are present. So it's are you present? Being present. And what do I mean by that? So I could be in a room full of 100 people and being in la la land. So I'm present, but mentally I am disengaged and I am thinking about something else. There's two pieces to that are kind of interesting. One is there's a place where you can actually receive a high level of performance, actually extended performance, because you're in that state of, whether you call it flow, in the zone. And that too is a bit of it's being present, but it's not focusing on what you're doing. It's almost like this world of freedom, and where either time speeds up or time slows down. And there's another part of it where, psychologically, I wonder if some of these individuals are having such horrible self-talk inside that they're just, dragging themselves. They're literally just zombieing almost through and this race, or whether it's a 5K or whether it's a full marathon, or full triathlon, whatever it may be that they're doing. But I think it's an interesting question, because I think that engaging, at some levels, engaging in what you are doing specifically can actually slow you down. And here's part of that. So if we talk about, and I think we talked about this some time ago when we were in the midst of, in deep into our first, 57 podcast. If we talked about our habits, our mastery skills, whatever level of mastery skills that may be, mastery skills are just where we're at. And so that is the subconscious part of us. So subconsciously we create mastery skills by repetition. And excuse me. And when we take that habit and start to debate it, and we start questioning where our feet are, we start questioning, if our hands are going into the water in the right place, is our elbow in the right position. When we do that, what happens is we have to take and go, instead of going from, say, our subconscious mind up into the motor cortex to create action, we have to then drive it up to the prefrontal cortex, or the CEO part of the brain, and then it has to start making decisions. And because of that new connection before it goes to the motor cortex, it delays us and makes us slower. So I would venture to say that engagement in the sense of negative self-talk would cause some tears within your mind. You're going to start debating everything, and then whether nutrition was an issue, it now becomes an issue.
Right.
Whether fitness was an issue, and now it's becoming an issue. Whatever it is that you feel like you're not good at, confidence level will literally shift your ability to engage in, let's call it your high performance mindset. Let's call it your peak performance. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does. Absolutely does. And in terms of racing, and there's so many implications with everything we talk about that are bigger picture, like life, right? But within racing, I think to an extent on race day, you are kind of on autopilot for the most part. What, are you dying on me over there?
Apparently I am, yeah.
Apparently.
Woo,
On race day, you do kind of sort of go into autopilot because you've done everything, like you were talking about habit and the mastery skills. You've done all that leading up to it. So race day, you shouldn't really be thinking about any of that stuff. And to an extent, the body is on autopilot. It's the mind that roams free on race day and the race and the week leading up to it. It's the mind that just goes out, and it's like giving a kid a free-for-all in a candy store, right? Go take anything you want, and the mind just goes freaking crazy.
Mm.
Well, if the mind is well-trained and strong enough, it's going to make right decisions, right? But if the mind has opportunity in it where it can make gains and isn't as strong as it should be, it's going to go straight for that bag of Snickers in the candy store, right? And so that's where that negative comes in. That's where I think you start to get that. It's almost like a deer in the headlights look for a few of the people that were out there. I think part of it is, oh shit, this is hard, right?
I was going to say, oh my God.
Yeah,
Maybe the first thing you say, oh my God.
Overwhelm. And that is to be expected for people doing that type of grueling endurance event. That's a physically enduring event, but it's ridiculously mental. And they get that deer in the headlights look. But I kid you not, there was one guy specifically, I still remember him vividly, and he's walking, but totally engaged. Man, he was making eye contact with every spectator he went past. He could have been in that place mentally of the negative self-talk you were talking about, right? He was engaged, he was active, he was alert. And that tells me his nutrition is probably okay if you're alert. When you don't get the nutrition, the brain is like, screw you, buddy, I am done. The process work stops, the progressive movement through the race stops. You just kind of muddle through it, if you will. Yeah. And so that one guy, I specifically remember him making eye contact with me, and then I watched his eyes dart off and look at a bird in a tree, and then he looked back at another spectator, and then he looked around the corner of the turn. And to me, he was engaged, but he wasn't engaged, right? He wasn't being present in the present. And that's something that you and I discussed the other day in terms of meditation and kind of, it's not this frou-frou thing. It's like, just be where you are. And I think we actually did a podcast on that, be as you are. And so it's how do we create that level of engagement all the time, right? Even so, if you look now with our current world situation, it's not getting any better. You go to a restaurant, you see husband and wife, and let's say kids sitting at a table. And Craig, I know you've seen this. Everybody has their phone in their face, right? They're not engaged where they're at. And that's what happens in the racing. You become disengaged. And when you become disengaged, like you said, you overprocess, you slow down. So that being said, what are some tactics that we can help people put in place with this?
Well, we're going back to, this is modern marketing, right? So we're looking for attention. And this is what drives the world of marketing is, how can I obtain someone's attention so I can sell them something? And so this is just how the world is working. We know that if we can get your, as you and I both follow Gary Vee, he says, eyeballs, it's all about eyeballs. Because if I can get something that's shiny and can grab your attention, I can potentially sell you something. Right. And so it's learning to, and you mentioned it earlier, and I want to go back real quick just for a second, because when I was down for Ironman Texas, we had it, and I won't mention their name, but we had an athlete that was short on sodium. And they came over, they came over the crest down by the water, and what you see is, and literally, you see eyeballs floating. They have the inability to pick a target and focus on it.
Correct.
So when you see these floating eyeballs, you start going, hey, yeah, they're lost. Now they may be lost from fitness. They may be lost from the conversation they're having in their head. And they may be lost from just total, whether it's food or food or fitness or just mental blocks. But they're so lost, and you can always find someone's level of concentration based upon the fact of where their eyes go.
Yep.
Now, when you're talking about, being in the moment of, a dinner table with your family, that's more of what I would consider to be a habit. And so we're making a habit to attend. So here's the question, so your phone rings. Why do you answer it?
Point. Yep.
And the question, and many people will say, well, because the phone's ringing. And the true question is because you made a choice to answer it.
Well, and to add to that, your phone lights up. Let's say the alerts are off. The phone lights up. What do? You instantly pick it up. Now we have our phones relaying messages to our wrists, which immediately tells us, hey, I want your attention. Look here.
Right. And you have a choice. And so that's, to me, that's the key piece in decisions on where you attend or you send your attention. So if I look at my phone, like it flashed, and so something popped up and it grabbed my attention because it was black. My phone's just dark, and all of a sudden something pops up, and now I have an attention, or I have something that's grabbing my attention. I look at it, but I got to pull back off and go, it's not important. Right. I've looked at it, but I made a decision. I'm not going to pay attention to that. If that's my, say that's someone that never calls me, and maybe there's something emergent, or there's a text and it says, hey, I need to talk to you right now. It's a different situation. But ultimately, being in that moment, engaging in your moment, is really a lot of, as long as it's not, obviously, if you have a nutrition issue, what do you think? I mean, that's gonna shut down a lot of things.
Oh, the brain's done.
Yeah, you're pretty much, it's a tough day. But outside of that, outside of nutrition, even if your fitness is not where it needs to be, nothing says you can't walk. Nothing says you can't pause on pedaling. I would refrain from saying completely stop swimming, but but what I would say is you're making a conscious decision about what you're entertaining your mind with. And is it something that's in the moment? Are you appreciating? And I would say it's a master level of appreciation.
There we go. You hit it.
Where we are, that's what makes a difference, because what ends up happening, especially in that dinner table, is you have, your wife sitting across from you, just saying, and you're not giving them the level of attention that's necessary. That's okay, because eventually they will get tired of that, and they will make a change for themselves.
Correct.
So to me, it's also about the value of what you're doing.
Let's see here. I'm making a note of that.
But you said something earlier, and that's training, and that's what people don't really think about. Just because you see a sports psych or a mental coach doesn't mean that you have issues. It means that you're human, and it means that you want an extreme level of performance. And the truth be known is that you can train all you want to, and you can build all the capacity in the world, but when you get into the moment of an event, are you performing to that level? And you cannot perform to that level. You can't have peak performance and actually actualize your level of fitness that you generated from training without having the mental game on point.
Absolutely.
It's not optional.
So from your standpoint, from a psychological standpoint, so let's say we're having balance issues, right? There's ways to retrain, right? Let's say we're having other fitness related issues. There's very clear steps. If you do A, B, and C, you will get D, E, and F. So when it comes to engagement, because this is something that even I struggle with on a day-to-day basis, with staying where I'm at, right? I'm always trying to go 2 steps ahead, or I'm thinking 2 steps back, and I have a really hard time staying where I'm at. And that's a big goal of mine, excuse me, that I'm working towards. And it's, someone's in front of you, you give them your all, right? And then you move on to the next opportunity to give your all. What are things that we can do from a psychological standpoint, Craig, to increase our ability to engage, let's say in sport for right now?
Oh, are you done there? I thought you were going to go further.
No, I was. That was
Well, it's selective attention, right? So it's learning how to put the mind on a certain thing for a period of time. And so this goes back to kind of our focus conversation that we had in a prior podcast. Is, a lot of times I'll ask people a question of what is, and I now use 5 words. I go, what is thought? What is focus? What is self-talk? What is attention? What is concentration? And while they may have some varying different types of meanings, and actually when you question people, you get varying meanings of all of them, but the reality of it is they are all the same, because when you have a thought, you have to talk to yourself about the thought. You have to, when you talk to yourself about the thought, it is your focus, and it is what you concentrate on, and it is what's holding your attention. And so understanding that, then you go, okay, well, I get that now, it kind of makes sense, but how do I do this? And part of it is whether it's, whether you take a Starbucks cup.
Uh-huh.
And
I see your Starbucks cup, and I raise you a Starbucks cup.
There you go. And you look at it, and you spend as much time as you can. In fact, use your phone and put the timer on it, and start the timer, and start conversating with yourself about this cup. Okay. It's white. It holds about 20 ounces of fluid. It's got a sticker on it. It says items 1 of 1, Venti Pike Place with Splenda, time. It has green text on it. It's really good. Whatever it is. And so the intention is to spend as much time as you can in your specific target, or on your specific target. Gotcha. And then when you feel like you go, damn, that's a hungry pain, I'm kind of hungry, you just shifted away from the cup. Right. So you stop the timer and you see how much time that was. And then you do it again. And then you try to break that time. You get competitive with yourself.
Yes.
And so the intention is to learn to control. This is not something that, I get into this ADHD. It's really funny because, people will say, my child has ADHD, and I'm not going to debate that your child has ADHD or not. I'm not going to do that. But what I will say is it's really funny when most kids who have ADHD, you give them a iPad, tablet, and give them a game, they're in it for hours. That's really, really, really strong attention. It's just oftentimes some of that ADHD is, I think, misrepresented as selective attention, and they don't want to pay attention to the other things. They want to pay attention to what they want to, because as soon as they go from the world of chaos to, I got something, I'm playing my game, all of a sudden I'm zoned in, and I'm not even thinking, I'm just doing.
Prioritizing.
And they don't move for hours because it's what they really want to do ultimately.
Correct.
So
I want to, because I've got a thought, how I work. So as you were talking about that Starbucks cup, I thought, okay, how can I take this and package this up and give this to an athlete to help them with that focus, with that concentration, with that appreciation, right? And so as you're saying that, how about this, Craig? I'm going to run this by you as a potential kind of off-the-cuff training tool. What if an athlete just was not, let's just say I've got to swim today, Craig, and swimming is stupid. We agree on that, right?
Yeah.
Okay. That's an enthusiastic yes, but you're going to learn how to swim better here in probably 18 months or so. Anyhow, let's say I've got an athlete that you're just like, damn it, I do not want to get in that pool today. What if we put something, as a coach, whether a mental coach or endurance coach, we put something in place for that athlete to say, appreciate where you're at. Well, how do you do that? You just appreciated that cup of coffee more than you've probably ever appreciated in the past year, right? Because you started identifying things. And let's take this a step further. Let's think about relationships. When we appreciate the person we're in a relationship with, we notice their eyes are prettier. We notice their hair looks good. We notice their pants look good. We notice their smile is really pretty. When we are not engaged in that moment, we don't really notice that stuff, yet it hasn't changed, right? So when you go to the pool and you stand there, take 30 seconds, take a minute, take however long, and set a standard on it. I want to take 30 seconds, and I want you just to look around. And I want you to look at the water's a light blue color. There looks to be something on the bottom of the pool there. Looks like might be a Band-Aid. The lane ropes are blue and white. The flags are this. That lady over there is swimming this way. right? Take it and involve yourself in that moment, just like you just did with that cup of Starbucks. Now, will that work or not? I don't know. It just came to me while you were talking about that, because I realized that I too personally struggle with that type stuff, appreciating where I'm at. I always want to be, not always, oftentimes I want to be somewhere that I'm not currently. And so I leave those moments, leaving a little bit out there that I could have helped with, that I could have provided more, that I could have been better at. And so maybe this is just for me, but find a way to engage with where you're at through the recognition that Craig just did with that Starbucks cup. Craig, what do you think about that from a training and actual functional tool?
Yeah, well, I think that's very valuable. Let me ask you this: if you're really good at swimming, does it make a difference? If you know you're good at swimming, do you have this problem when you enjoy something that you do?
I'm going to say no.
Generally not. And then I go back and say, let me ask this question: do you feel like you're not good at it? And what you find is many of those individuals who are hating getting in the pool is because they don't feel like they're very good at it. Right. It's because they're judging themselves on what they don't have versus what they do have. And so, for many of those individuals, maybe even the thought of go back to Training Peaks when you hear that struggle, is to have them go back to Training Peaks and look at their times and evaluate the improvements that they've made thus far, and evaluate where they started and where they are, and go, hey, now with this negative mindset that you've got that you're hating this, I assure you, you're not going to do any better.
Correct.
But you went from here to here. Could you imagine if you did this and recognized and appreciated your achievements thus far in the swim or in the bike or whatever? If I love to do leg presses, I have no problems going there and do leg presses. But if I suck at doing squats, I'm doing leg presses.
Yeah, for sure.
I gotta do squats today. But
you know what
I'm saying?
Yeah, but Craig, the thing is all that's a lie, because we know you don't do leg day. So
I don't do leg day. I don't do chest day. I don't do arm day. I don't do any day.
Matter of fact, I just don't do days.
I just don't do days. I just don't do them.
So all joking aside, though, I think you're absolutely right. When we enjoy something, we have no problem being completely enveloped in whatever that is. Yeah. And sometimes that's a prioritization issue. Sometimes it's a comfort issue. As you were saying that, I think back, and so, for instance, I think back a couple episodes to when we had Michael Klusterman on. By the way, met him this weekend. Love that dude. Awesome dude. Got to actually chat with him before the swim. Yeah, super cool guy. And it's funny how you meet people through these processes in this life, and you never really physically meet them, but when you do, it's just as awesome as you thought it would be, right?
Right.
And so I thought about it, and Craig, if I come to you as a client of yours with Craig Wheeler Coaching, and I say, Craig, I don't feel good about myself. Okay, well, what do you think about yourself? Well, I'm fat. I don't like the way my eyes are shaped. I have this weird mole right here. I have this scar here. How would you walk me through that process of making me feel better, or helping me to learn how to feel better about myself?
Well, first thing you have to do is recognize that people, when they have those beliefs, they're true. And so Absolutely. Who am I to come in and say, you're being stupid right now? You're an idiot. Right. Look at you. And this happens a lot. You see some beautiful girl and she talks about how horrible she feels about herself, and you're like, what is your problem?
Right. You're out of your mind.
Dry. When you walk in the room, everybody stares at you.
Right.
That's how gorgeous you are. It's not because you're ugly, it's because you're gorgeous. And so A, it's recognizing that people's truths are their truths. And then B, it's understanding how they got there. And then, maybe it's one of those things where, so here's some statistics. And many of this stuff I'll talk about as with my upcoming book, but the statistic says that 95% of our thoughts are repetitive, and 80% of our thoughts are negative. So if you want to talk about someone being an asshole, you just need to look yourself in the mirror. Right. And what I tell people is, I say, hey, if you talk to your friends and or your family the way you talk to yourself, you are the loneliest person on the planet, because everyone hates you.
And they punch you in the face.
And they would punch you in the face, slit your tires, blow your house up.
Oh, hey, that's next
whatever
level.
else.
Easy.
That probably made, I'm sure security.
But what you just said is exactly what I was thinking with endurance athletes, in particular, because they love to point out how not good they are at something.
Oh yeah.
And we're kind of deviating from the engagement, but I think it ties back in. They love to point out how they're not good at something. They don't appreciate where they're at. Well, the problem is I feel they don't engage with every opportunity they get to appreciate where they are. Right. So I think, it started off as engagement on the race course and seeing people just not tuned in, if you will. It's like that FM station you can't quite dial in when we were a kid. Some listeners may not know what that is, but you actually used to have to dial it in. And then I think back in Craig's day, they had I think it's called an 8-track maybe. Anyway, it's engaging with the things that you like about yourself, right? If you like to swim, you're going to talk about being a good swimmer. You're going to talk about your swim sets. You're not going to talk about how shitty of a runner you are ever. Right. So you engage with that and you're okay with moving forward with that. Whereas the run, you're going to put it off. You're not going to like yourself as a runner. You're not going to appreciate who you have become as a runner because you're not where you think you want to be as a runner.
But here's the thing. So when you don't say, I am not a good runner because you don't want to make emphasis on that, it's too late because you've already thought about it. You've already assumed that. And so that's your belief. So just because you don't say it doesn't mean that it lacks value. To you, it lacks 100% value. And so I challenge people to say, and this is nerdy, you have to think about your thinking. And if you say in your head, that self-talk that says, I suck at swimming, or I suck at riding a bike, or I suck at running, that is your truth. That is your thought. And that is what's going to dictate whatever the hell is in front of you. And so instead of saying I'm a horrible runner, instead of saying I'm a horrible swimmer, it's saying that I'm an improving swimmer. I'm an improving runner. Or I am better than I was last week. There's no doubt. Even if you put any level of fitness training into your run, you are better than you were last week.
Correct.
But it's the lack of emphasis on that and thinking overall, especially, if you look in the mirror every day at your body and you gain a half a pound every day, a year from today, you don't feel any different. You don't even look different. But over that year span, if you took a picture every day and then you played it like a video, all of a sudden you see size grow. It's because we don't recognize the day-to-day growths and developments that we have, good or bad. And so, literally that stuff starts with talking to yourself in an appropriate manner that gives you the opportunity to grow and develop in a positive perspective. Does that make sense?
Correct. And, as a parent, as you were talking about kind of, let's just say the body image, as a parent, I try to catch myself. If I say anything bad about myself, I think to myself, if someone said what I just said to me, to my daughter or my son, what would I do to that person? I can tell you what I would do. And I got a fairly decent idea of what you would do. Yeah. Right. And so, anyway, that's just some really, really good thoughts. So
engaging in the moment requires your self-respect outside of nutrition. And I say nutrition because when it's a nutrition issue, the mind can't even do it can't even work well. It works, it just doesn't work well. So to me, being engaged is respecting where you are, how you got there, and that you're continuing to grow. And from that, you can enjoy the moment because as you say, Jeremy, this is the journey. This is your victory lap.
Yeah, for sure.
So when you're racing, this is your victory lap. This should be at a time of automation, but if you constantly debate yourself, you're not giving yourself respect. And
love that.
The real world says the world will not give you any more respect than you give yourself.
Oh, so true. So true.
You build the bar, so you better set it high for yourself. Thus, everyone else will achieve it. But if you set it on the ground, everybody will walk over and does nothing for it.
True story. So, final thoughts on engagement.
Be engaged.
And we're done here.
Be nice to yourself. And a lot of this stuff, I promise you, this is for many of you that don't know, I'm working on my first book, The High Performance Mindset, and it is literally all about how we think. And if you're nice to yourself, I promise you better things come. I assure you. It's crazy how much I've from coaching and from education, how much we destroy our own opportunities because of the lack of self-care.
So Craig, when's that book potentially coming out, and when pre-order is available?
We're talking about pre-orders actually at this moment. I don't really know the answer to that, so my publisher is making all those important decisions for me.
No, this moment you're engaged with me.
That's right. So I'm not sure, but the intention is for the book to be published in June. It might slide, just depends on some proofreading exercises and whatnot. But the book cover is done. The content is pretty close to being done. June, if it has to slide much, I assume it'll slide to probably the first week of July.
And for those that are curious, is it still 4 simple installments of $49.95 plus shipping and handling?
Yes.
Okay.
That is correct. It's a $29 shipping and handling charge, but I promise you it's totally worth it.
And the book is 9 pages.
Yeah, 9 pages. In fact, it's an ebook, but there's a shipping and handling charge. Sorry.
Oh, yes. Oh.
But literally, engaging in the moment is outside of nutrition, is just ensuring that all the hay is in the barn, as Jeremy says. The hay's in the barn; it's ready to go. You've done all that you can do this far. There's no point in debating yourself, but it's enjoying that moment. And what I tell most of my athletes, especially those that struggle, is make sure that you don't pass a camera that you don't smile at.
So true. Don't let me go back and look at those race photos. Oh, God help.
I don't want to see misery. I mean, because I'm going to go back and I'm going to hound you and ask you why you're even doing this.
Right.
If you don't enjoy this, what are you doing to yourself? The percentage of people that do this is less than 1%.
Right.
So you're already on a totally different level, and here you are, a totally different level, and you're hating what you do, but yet you accomplished it. Could you imagine if you loved what you did?
Right. Right.
I mean, just the shift of loving what you do will increase your performance tenfold.
Done. Dude, final statement of the day right there. That's solid.
All right.
Good stuff, dude. I think it's a good chat on engagement, and it's something that I think whether you're an endurance athlete or not, I think it's something that we all can continue to grow and work on for sure.
It's definitely a really interesting question. I hadn't really thought about it in that perspective. But get a hold of us, Performance on Demand Podcast at gmail.com. You can also reach Jeremy over there at mindrightendurance.com. Is that correct?
That is correct. And only G's have Gmail, so I've been told. Or so I think it was Snoop Dogg that might have said that in a song.
That's right.
Nelly or
That's
somebody.
right. That's what our businesses don't have Gmails, but our G podcast does. Performance on Demand Podcast, gmail.com.
You think that was an accident?
I know, right?
It was planned.
You can connect with me over at craigwillard.com, craigwillard.com. And
Craig at craigwillard.com.
I can help you with all your mental performance needs. Otherwise, until next time, Jeremy, deuces.
Deuces.
See ya. All right.